Hey, I'm Gillett, and this is the Power of Women podcast. We're a platform that showcases and celebrates the strength, resilience and achievement of women from all walks of life. In each episode, I pose questions to my guests to peel away the layers to reveal the knowledge and the experience that shapes their narrative. So if you're feeling unseen, unheard, or simply looking for inspiration, then the Power of Women podcast is a great place to join the conversation. The woman joining me today has previously struggled with a few challenges along the way. One of those, I understand, is homelessness. And as we know, there is a rising incidence of homelessness amongst middle-aged and more mature-age women, albeit a different story that we'll touch on as we dive into the podcast. But rather than really get stuck on that, what I want to focus on in the conversation is how this dynamic individual actually changed her path, because that's really where the magic is going to be in today's discussion. So Sheridan Shaw, welcome to the Power of Women podcast.
So fitting. Thank you for having me, Dee. I'm excited to explore this path with you today.
Sheridan, can we wind back? It's probably 20 years or so, yeah? Am I right in...
I would say about 15, perhaps.
Okay, I'm date stamping you older than I should. But hey,
probably lived a life of that many years.
Yeah. So Sheridan, tell us what was going on in your life about 15 or so years ago.
Yeah, so 15 years ago, I was in the depth of my despair. I was using every day. I had landed a job at one of the best hair salons in Melbourne, which I very soon lost. And after losing that job, actually became homeless. Little would any of my clients have known that was kind of what was going on for me. I was, showing up to work with my eyes rolling in the back of my head, and also in a lot of pain, more pain than I had any courage to admit to myself, and feeling very lost and in deep psychosis, and a really scary, dark time for this young woman at that time.
How did you get there, Sheridan? What was that spiral downwards?
Well, I think from what I know now versus what was going on then, I thought I just liked to have a good time. I never wanted the party to end. I wanted it to always keep going, and I was always the last one standing. And what I know now was I was feeling incredibly lonely, incredibly insecure, an incredible amount of deep self-hatred for who I was as a person and as an individual, and my actions certainly weren't helping me love myself, that's for sure, because I kept getting myself into these holes because of my behavior of trying to avoid responsibility, avoid pain, avoid feeling. And I got kicked out of my dad's house. He changed the locks on me without any communication, which was also quite strange at that time. And then I was out on my own and I had nowhere to go.
Wow. So how were you existing?
So I was using very regularly at that stage. It ended up being like a weekend kind of binging situation where I'd drink and use drugs to oblivion. And it would just be like a Friday night thing, and then a Friday, Saturday thing, and then a Friday, Saturday, Sunday thing, and then a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday thing. And then it ended up just days backed up
being
together because I just... The thing, and it just crept up on me, and it didn't feel like it was a problem. And I looked around, and some of my friends were able to admit that they were addicts, but for me, I could never get that honest with myself. I could never see that was the problem, because for me, it was the solution to how I felt on the inside, and the fact that I didn't have to feel was actually a gift, and I didn't want anyone to have to take that away from me.
Was there a low point? I mean, that sounds reasonably low, but was there a bottom?
The bottom for me was a 10-day bender where the psychosis was something that was new for me. You know, the radio was talking to me, everyone around me was talking directly to me, songs were directly towards me, and I knew something wasn't right. And I was able to admit defeat at that time because of the craziness inside my head that would not stop. And I ended up in a mental health clinic, under a youth mental health clinic, actually. And that was the moment that I was able to say something's not right, and ask my mother for help at the time. So, yeah.
So how do you pull yourself out of that life?
It was really hard. Like, I was 20 years old. I'm now 32, and I have not used any kind of mood or mind-altering substance since. I do have one coffee every day. That's my crutch. Though,
hopefully not a mind-altering coffee.
Well, look, I feel it. I'm so conscious of my body now, and I time that coffee. You know, I am ready for that coffee, and I enjoy every second of that coffee until the very next day. But back then, I was so young, and, you know, you would look at my peers and think that this is just a normal part of living your life, like that, to get absolutely trolleyed on the weekends and live your best life. And a lot of them were the best weekends I'd ever had in my life, until every weekend wasn't. So I was ready to try something new, and, you know, found a community of people that helped me get clean and stay clean. I was in rehab for 18 months as well. So having that long stint surrounded by people that were, you know, meditating on a daily basis, doing group therapy, learning how to live a different way, trialing exercise and, you know, yoga, and just different methodologies that I certainly was not practicing ever before heading into some kind of space like this. That was kind of the turning point. And I think having a long stint in a new environment was something that, with no phone, I had no phone for 6 months as well. And, you know, we all know how different and challenging that can be. But
that's a real cut-off from the external world.
It had to be a completely detached from all of my old people, all of my old friends. And, you know, as far as anyone knew, I had died. Like, that's how clear that cutting point for me was and had to be.
So are there still disciplines that you adhere to today? Because is it once an addict, always an addict? Hence, you've got to manage not to go back step.
Absolutely. So now, on a heart and cellular level, I still identify as an addict, even though I haven't picked up a drink or a drug in 12 years. Actually, I celebrated in September 24th. So
well done.
It's a long time, and it is a humility act for me. I need to remind myself of where I've come from, because I know the way that I drank to get drunk the minute I picked up my first drink. Like, it was never a have a couple of drinks. And even to this day, I'm like, why would you have a few? It just doesn't make any sense to me. So I'm really lucky that I have a honesty with myself. I know who I am. I see myself looking for things outside of myself to make myself feel better, even though I'm not using, or I might be, you know, I've gone through the whole love addiction as well in recovery, as well as binge eating through recovery. So I've been able to see my personality clear as day.
Addiction's there.
It's there. It's real, and it can get me any second of the day. So I need to stay really diligent in my recovery and plugged into, the reality of my life, and that I am someone that has lived a really challenging life and upbringing, and I am way more sensitive than the average human that was, you know, surrounded and fostered with love, care, and boundaries, and all of those things that, you know, I have learnt to invite into my life today, but sadly haven't experienced until this kind of
recently.
End of my life.
Yeah. We'll get into your work later, but I'll be interested whether addiction to other things is also something that you take into your approach to your work. So we'll hold that thought, because we'll come back to that. So given your experience with this epidemic called homelessness, you said you ended up homeless. Were you sleeping rough for any extended period of time, or was it couch surfing?
Yeah.
What was it? What did it look like?
It looked like couch surfing for me until, I very slowly weeded my way out, or the house became too small for someone sitting on someone's couch, until I found the next, friend that I could live with for a while, until I was able to find another accommodation during that time. So it was about 6 months of not having my own home or space and couch surfing.
Do you burn bridges doing that? Do people get jack of it?
Absolutely, because it's like, it's their space, and I'm sitting in the lounge room on their couch with, a suitcase. And the way that I was living, again, was blackout drinking, ending up in one of their beds and not knowing.
So you weren't a great house guest.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe for the beginning it was a bit of fun, but then it got tedious and tiresome, and look, I don't blame them.
So back on this issue of homelessness, really being an epidemic. I mean, you've only got to walk through Melbourne CBD in one block and you can see what the epidemic is. What do you think, having experienced it personally, what do you think we need to do to stem this?
Well, for me, it was only when I got into rehab that I recognised that there was any kind of support for homelessness. I had no idea the level of support, but I was in a situation where I did have a house at that time, and I'd moved in with a housemate, and I needed to get out of that lease because I was in rehab, and I was looking around for some kind of support to get me out of that situation. So it was only then that I saw, wow, there actually is an overwhelming amount of support if you look for it in the right kind of agency. And of course, when you're using and drinking every day, you can't even sometimes lodge your dole check, and actually lodge your hours. Like, how on earth are you meant to search for help and support when you're just knocked to oblivion? So I think for me, it is going to be really hard for anyone that's in that situation, because it's a
you're
minute
out of
at a
touch.
time. Yeah, completely disconnected to. And it's almost like a bit of self-sabotage as well. It's like you don't want to see help and you don't want to see support, and you want to kind of believe the limiting beliefs that are in between your head to continue the devastation of the way that you live. It's like denial. It's denial, and you don't even know that you're lying to yourself. So how could I have seen that there was support until I was ready to admit defeat?
So what was the green light to say you were ready to come back and re-immerse yourself in society after you went through this very disciplined period of support?
Look, I think it was a bit of a universal intervention for me. It's like I got a phone 6 months into my recovery. Somehow someone had gotten my number, my old best friend, who's still one of my best friends to date. She had reached out to me, and, I don't know too many people back in my heyday at all whatsoever anymore, but it's like these little moments of a hand reaching out. She had actually launched a salon as well. I was a really great hairdresser, and I had fallen out of love and touch with my art because I thought that I needed to be creative or to be good at what I did, because to be honest, I just felt so bad about myself that the drugs or alcohol would just numb that for me. So I felt empowered. I felt like I was great at something because I had, no fear. That's what it was. But when I wasn't using, all of my fear and anxiety would kind of come back into my body. And she invited me to come and start working a day at her salon. And so I would slowly integrate back into life in a really small way and start to build my confidence in areas that I'd lost confidence in, and slowly but surely started to, re-emerge into the world. And it was really hard. Like, it was really, really, really hard. And I got into a really deep depression when I left rehab because I didn't have that, nest to come home to and keep me preoccupied. It was just me, myself, and I. And
you're now responsible, for yourself.
I am now responsible. And for someone that doesn't like taking responsibility, that's a really scary place.
Okay. Well, coming up, we're going to hear more about how you did change your life and also how you're helping others, because my guess is you're now being really responsible. If you're loving the Power of Women podcast, be sure to jump on to our YouTube channel and hit that subscribe button to ensure you never miss an episode. So, Sheridan, would it be accurate to say that overcoming the challenges of your past is the driving force behind what has become your business success today?
Well, I get a little bit emotional when you say it like that, because the truth is, if I didn't have this energy that lives within me, I would not be where I am today. And people will say all the time to me, Sheridan, I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you do what you do. And of course they don't, because they don't have this part of them that I still have that needs to be nurtured, that needs to be put into something. Otherwise, I go straight to, I want to die. Like, that is as extreme as it gets for me. If I'm not taking risks and living really boldly, my life is boring. And Sheridan bored is a big problem. Like, she has to be immersed in a project. And I have loathed that part of me, but I have come to deeply accept and love and cherish that part of me. It's the doer in me that will do until she dies. Yeah. And now I'm trying to surrender to what does it look like if Sheridan doesn't do till she dies? What does it look like if I can trust and I can surrender and can believe that the work that I've done to this point in my business, in my recovery, in my relationships, can hold all the work that's been done? So I'm in a little bit of a crossroads in my career where, we've won multiple awards in a very short period of time. We've come out of absolutely nowhere in the Australian hairdressing industry and absolutely dominating and pioneering in the profile that we've built and becoming in the front and center of an industry that I was once a part of, but lost my way and then found my way in the front and center. And it's something, being a part of community and a community that did save my life, now being able to give back in the hairdressing industry and utilize those same values that I learnt and put it towards something. It's like, it's my purpose and it's my passion, and it keeps growing, and I want to be able to share that with other people that have struggled, and a lot of hairdressers have some isms, and whether that is alcoholism or addiction or, just maybe some mental support, that they might need. Like, we're creative beings.
I've known a few.
End up together for a reason. Right? We all know a hairdresser that has gone a little off the rails.
Yeah, I know more than a few if I think that through. I mean, I know some very measured and grounded ones, but equally, I know plenty who are not. So let's just wind back a bit. How do you go from, and the business is called Mama West, yeah?
Yes.
So how do you go from being, for all intents and purposes, institutionalized to get yourself back on the straight and narrow to launching a business? Talk us through that. How does that happen?
Look, it's something that definitely takes time. And I would say how that happens is I've learned over the last several years how to live principled, like a good principled person. Because when I was using, and even in my earlier recovery, I had these survival instincts and skills to live my life. So I had to unlearn those and then learn to be inherently honest, uncomfortably honest in showing people who I am, how I actually feel, get vulnerable, be courageous, have faith, surrender, let go, all of these things that I had absolutely no skill set in before I got to recovery. So I think it took a really long time to just practice those principles in my jobs that I would show up to, and I remember my first job that I was getting paid cash, and, that stopped working because I needed to get a loan, and then the cash business wouldn't put me on the books, so I had to live spiritually principled and go find a job that would, so it meant loving, losing, showing up, fronting up, changing because I'm trying to put in the good work and I'm not being met with the same good work. Like it's just been years and years of just practicing and just taking the next step that is in front of me. Life on life terms is challenging, and it's hard, and it's not good all the time. So I had to get a real good dose of hardship and goodship and learn how to dance and accept both of those realities of life. And
but I guess coming through. If we go back to coming out of the addiction, I'm presuming you're almost on the bones of your ass financially at that point, because you've kicked your income stream to the curb. Yeah. You've stopped earning. How does Sheridan Shaw go from that person to funding and owning a business? Can you share some of that with us? Because I mean that's inspirational, and that's like, crap, how did you do it?
How did I do it? So I do call myself the accidental entrepreneur because I never planned to go out and start my own business. It was just yet again a situation where I was being given these really amazing opportunities, where I was able to go to Crown Casino and get given a $200 blowaway for an hour of my time, and that was like more than a day's wage at that time. And my boss started to say no to these opportunities and say, well, I need you on the floor, I need you in the salon. If I say yes to you, I need to say yes to everyone. So it was kind of the first time where I recognized, oh, he's got his business interests at heart. I thought he had mine, so I recognized I need to have my own. So I accidentally, literally started my own business in the way that I'd left the salon because I wasn't honest enough with myself to say that I was hurt by that, I think. I left the hair salon to become a personal trainer because exercise has been another passion of mine through recovery. And all of my clients ended up following me home because I was like, I'll do a few clients from home and I'll work at a gym.
Do a workout and then I'll do your hair afterwards.
Literally. And I was working 60-hour weeks, studying personal training, working at a gym, then doing all my clients at home. And I started getting migraines, and my beautiful nutritionist at the time was like, Sheridan, you need to choose. You need to choose here. What
You're running two businesses.
Totally. So I chose hairdressing again, and I just put everything into it. And by the time that I was ready to expand my business, I had saved $40,000 and stashed it under my bed. Like, that is literally how I saved. So
you self-funded your startup. That's what you did. You
did.
Yeah, amazing.
So it is amazing. Like, even I was shocked because I do hair for love. Like, I'd never done it for money. And that's why I got to a stage where there was even $40,000 there, because I would literally just tuck it away. I'd do the hair, tuck it away, do the hair, tuck it away, get on with my life, until I got to a point where I was like, far out. It's like, we've actually, that was years and years and years of sacrifice and not, getting the expensive clothes and handbags and, looking outside of myself. It was, I don't even know what I was saving for, but I knew I was saving for something, So that
funded a lease on a business, yeah?
Yeah,
and then you started to rent out chairs and start to employ people. How'd you get going?
So we went going because I started a salon. We've never been a rent-a-chair model. It was always an employee model. And I had already, got 120 of my own clients, so that was all ready to go in a salon. And there was a gap in the market on this side of town, and there really wasn't. There was one other hair salon in this area, and I was like, but how can that be? So we put on a senior hairdresser, we put on an apprentice hairdresser, and I started getting honest with my journey. I started building a business through COVID as well. Like, I started sharing the launch of the salon, who I am, what we're going to do in the community, because I am so community centered and focused. And before we even launched, we were 8 weeks booked out.
Wow.
Like, that is insane. So I have been so blessed to have had like a very profitable business from the very beginning of launching and opening, because I think it has been so open, and I've taken people on the journey with me, because that's what people have done with me, you know. So I just kind of have acted in the same way that I've been role modeled to act. And now, you know, I've literally, with the expansion of Mama West, where we did, you know, have that beautiful salon for 3 years, we've now invested every wincy bit of profit that we had from that salon, invested it into this business and some, and exhausted all of our resources. And now I'm in a really vulnerable time right now, because I am not someone that lives comfortably when when everything's threatened, where my financial stability is threatened, my mental, my emotional, my physical, my spiritual, everything is threatened right now, because I've taken another humongous risk in creating a 336 square meter space.
Yeah.
And holding space for other people in business, to the point where, we are in a really new arena. It's brand new.
How are you managing that in terms of the stress that brings? So I can hear there's a lot going on. So how do you manage that on a day-to-day basis?
On a day-to-day basis, what that looks like for me, I've just been trying to move my body. How it manifests for me is, like, I've had some extreme back pain the last month, and I know that that's just stored emotion or energy stuck in my body. So I do a lot of breath work. I do a lot of meditation. I was at my breath work last night. I had an hour class, and at the end of that class, I was just that little girl again that was, you know, in her back bedroom where no one was there, bawling her eyes out, like just looking to be saved, looking to be rescued. But I know for me, now that I am someone that has really taken responsibility for my life the last 12 years, that no one is coming on their white horse to save me, and that the only person that is going to be able to get myself out of this situation is myself. So although I'm in an incredibly uncomfortable period of my life, I know that I am someone that will do the work. And I can count on me because of that. So I don't know where this will go. It has been a gigantic success in the salon arena, because it is something that I know and I love, and it's so heart-led and passion-built, and something that I know that I'm destined to do and be. But, you know, when you go from a booked-out 12-chair salon to a not so booked out 20-chair salon that takes time to build, you know, that's different for me. I'm used to it being booked and busy, and for me, space,
anxiety.
That's scary.
Yeah.
I like packed, I like hustle, I like bustle. So it's this, dancing with this feminine, masculine energy that I've kind of learnt over the years, and I love to live in my masculine. She's, you know, he or she, whatever, that part of me has really And
have you got a business coach or a mentor, somebody who advises you? Yeah.
I have so many mentors. The most amazing mentor at the moment is a salon coach called Kim Cray, who has taught me leadership in a way that I've never been taught before. And I'm naturally a born leader, I think, and she's been really great in harnessing that ability to lead in a team. But yeah, I've got her that I turn to all the time. I've also got Peach Business, who is a chartered accountant who helps me regularly. And then I've got other mentors that are like a little bit more spiritual mentors that can help me through the depths of
a village.
Despair. There's a village, and I think this is
it takes a village.
My superpower.
Yeah.
It does. It absolutely does. It takes equals, I think. equals in your life and mentors that are able to kind of give you their time. Some paid, some not paid, some more service-based. And I really get a lot of value out of that because of this lack of trust in.
And I imagine in hairdressing, you often end up with clients being mentors too, because you develop relationships through that customer engagement.
I'm someone that I wouldn't say that because I'm so client experience driven that I want to give 100% of my energy. It depends. If it's a friend and client, it's a little bit of a different energy. But even then, I might turn to them outside of a hairdressing appointment. But when they're in my chair, it's about them. I'll touch on myself for 10%, but 90% of that appointment is all about them. It's not about me.
Very good customer relations.
Yeah. Totally. And I try to teach that, but it's a hard one to learn until I think, you come from that service-based experience and, wanting to give back and wanting to give wanting someone to feel seen and heard and it be for them, not about Sheridan and her hardship.
They've turned up for their appointments, all about them, and you respect that. So
absolutely,
I respect that in you. So tell me, what would be your message for somebody who's on the precipice of losing their way, be it through addiction or poor choices or poor circumstances? What would be your one call out to that person by way of what they should do next?
I was listening to this Reese Witherspoon quote on Instagram where she was sharing about, you've got to be qualified. You don't have to be qualified. You just have to have the courage to do it, right? And I have that. I have that courage. But I think what you need more in life is the ability to ask for help. Because whilst I have had courage to take this ginormous risk and leap of faith in chasing my dream and my ambitions, I could not get out of where I am right now if it wasn't for asking people that have walked the path before me or been in similar situations, how do you move forward? And I think that is why I am a gigantic success story. It is not me. It is what I've been taught in being able to have that courage to ask for help and be vulnerable. And that's how you get in the room sometimes, It's just asking the right people if you can support them, assist them, or even if you're in, a real big business financial hardship, tell people. Don't pretend that it's going all right if it's not. Because how do you get out of the mess if you're not able to share with people, the right people?
The right people, correct. I mean? Yep.
The right people about what's really going on. So and I say that to all of my team as well in here. We only ever have problems or redos if my team don't ask for help and go into something just kind of working it out on their own. But we're very collaborative, and that's a huge value of mine, and that encourages everyone to get outside of themselves and just double check themselves, because it's always better to have two heads on one situation than one head working it all out on its own.
Yeah, well done. So Sheridan, what would be a phrase that defines you today?
Oh gosh.
I'd think courageous is probably in the sentence.
I think I am just so bold. I am so bold. I am uniquely different. I am so myself, and that is why I'm different. I'm not indifferent anymore. I'm just different to you because I'm me. And I think I really value.
And you're comfortable in your difference. Yeah.
To be myself. Yes, it's just being authentic. It's being true. And then it just hurts so much less in the world if you don't align with someone, or if they project something onto you. It's like, wow, that's not me. I don't need to hold that. It just, I'm getting better now. It doesn't stick anymore because I'm comfortable, in who I am. So I think, being courageous to be authentic and be real.
Well done. So how do we find Mama West? Where does somebody find the business and make a booking to experience your amazing customer service and the talents of the salon?
Yeah, so we are located in Footscray on Ballarat Road. You can find us on Instagram, MamaWest_, and you can find my personal journey where I get very vulnerable about the business struggles as well as wins, Sheridan Roadshaw _MamaWest on Instagram, which is our most loved and shared experience.
Fantastic. Thank you, Sheridan. And equally, you can find the Power of Women podcast on Instagram, on LinkedIn, and the balance of the socials. You can also connect with me on my website, powerofwomen.com.au. And if you've got a guest or a recommendation of somebody you think we should pursue, we'd love to hear that from you as well. Until next time.